Stampers, it's Madeline from stampwithmadelyn.com, and today we are going to do an original design of mine. I'm always going on Pinterest and trying to get ideas, and I really wanted to try and make my own card this month for my Stamp 10 group. So I have a club that meets every single month. Every month has a different hostess, so there is a club minimum that everyone purchases, but they get to meet at my craft room every month. We make 2 cards and we have a great time together. There's always snacks and drinks, and I'm also in the process of making a distance Stamp 10 because some of my friends are living out of town, so we're trying to get that up and running. If anyone is interested in either one of those, please let me know. So this was one of them that we did. We did 2 of the cards. So I love this hexagon textured embossing folder, but I don't use it very often. So I have just gotten the Dragonfly stamp set that is continuing, the Dragonfly Dreams, and so I wanted to get to use these little cute bees, and I love embossing powder, so I had to make them shiny, of course. So we are using this hexagon embossing folder that is continuing, and we are going to do that first. So what you have for this card is a 5.5 by 8.5 card folded in half at 4.25. I have a 3 by 3 square of the Cupcakes and Carousels Designer Series paper, and this is retiring, so if you want that paper pack, I would definitely get on it. Then I have a 2 by 2 square of Bermuda Bay to match that Designer Series paper, and then I just have a scrap of the Delightful Dijon paper that's going to be the card base as well. And this is an in color, so I'm not sure, but it may be out of stock already for the paper. I know that the ink refill was just about to go out of stock. So always the in colors that are retiring, they go out so fast. So you always want to get right on that. And then I have a strip of the satin Very Vanilla ribbon. And this is about 2.5 inches, and we trim it down as we go. So the first step for this card is to just make all the impressions of the embossing folder done. So every single one of these papers the embossing folder has created. So I call them innies and outies. So the hive, like a hexagon pattern here, is an outie because we can feel the bumps coming out. On the DSP, I have them going in. So these are innies because you can feel like the depression of them. And then my Bermuda Bay square is outies again, because you can feel the hills. So it's up to you. It's, you know, totally your call, but I liked having different ones because it adds to the dimension, I think, for this card. So we're going to take our big shot out, and I'm going to show you this step just because this hexagon embossing folder is a little bit different than our other ones. This embossing folder is very thick, so you only need to use 1 plate. So I've actually taken out the thin adapter that is usually on top of this platform and one of the plates. So we only need 1 plate, just because of the thickness of this. So your card base in Delightful Dijon, you're going to want to fold in half and put in the embossing folder right on the edge, so that you can tell that it's going to get the entire front of the card, but not the back. So that's why it's important to fold it so that you know. And you want it to be even, just so it looks straight. Then you're going to guide this through, again, with just the 1 plate on top. Make it even and push it through. And I told my club to do this twice. So we roll it through about all the way through, and then we come back. Some people spray the paper with water with the spritzer in order to get a deeper impression, but I haven't had to do that. I think I've had pretty good luck just with doing the regular folder with regular paper. So look at that. I love this. I think it is so neat. It really looks like a beehive to me. So that's our card base. That's all done. Then you're going to take your Designer Series paper. Now this is the one that's going to be an innie, so this is where it's a little bit confusing. You want to put your paper down where you can feel the bumps, so feel those hills. So you want that to go down. That way it'll be an innie. Then your blue square, it really doesn't matter because it's the same on both sides. So we're going to put that through, again with just the 1 plate. Guide it through, and then come back. And you could probably just go through once, but I like to go twice. Open up and look at that. So we have our innies here on the designer series paper, and we'll have our outies on the Bermuda Bay cardstock. So you are all done with your big shot, so that can go aside. Now you want to glue these down, because this is all we're doing for the card base. And you can decide how you want to put these down. It's totally up to you. You can put them identical to the like the pattern. You could match this up if you wanted to, or you could change it up. So it's totally your call. Okay, so it's up to you how you put this down. You do want to put the DSP down first. So you just want to get some adhesive on it. And you can, again, line it up any way you want. This one I kind of go not exactly the way that the hive is in the background on the cardstock. I do it a little bit different, but with the light blue one, I put it right on the exact pattern. So we're gonna do it up here. Just press it firmly down. It does need a little bit of extra adhesive just because you're putting it on a bumpy surface in the background. Okay, so you're done with this cardstock or card background. So you can set that aside. Now comes the fun part. So now what we're going to do is the embossing of the bees and your sentiment. So the first thing about embossing is you always need your embossing buddy. So this makes it so you won't have any kind of messiness as you're embossing. You want those crisp images. So just make sure you get the whole thing with your embossing buddy, and I will have all the product links for this video in my blog. Next, we're going to be using our Versamark, and my blog link will be below, so just check it out when you're done watching. And make sure you subscribe because I have lots of fun videos coming up. This is the bumblebee from that Dragonfly set, so we're just going to stamp this down on the paper. So you just want to tap, 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 and make sure the entire bee gets covered. And again, this is just a scrap piece of paper. Oops, I forgot. You do want a piercing pad because these are photopolymer stamps. So in order to get like a real crisp image, you always want that piercing pad down for your photopolymer stamps. Okay, so 2 bees. And then the sentiment. So I'm doing the enjoy your special day sentiment. Okay, so you're done with the Versamark. Now we're putting the embossing powder on this. So I always use a like a Tupperware in order to get the embossing powder to not make as much of a mess. And this way you can save everything you don't use. So I'm going to just pour this on top. You could even have these in Tupperwares and spoon it on. It's totally up to you. So you're going to pour more than you obviously need onto the bees. Now, usually I have you flick the back in order to get the excess off. But for these bees, too much comes off when you flick it, and I don't think it looks as good. So you're just going to tap in the bottom of your Tupperware. Make sure all the excess is off that you want. So you can move that aside. You're done with that now. Now you're going to emboss it with a heat tool. So this is in the catalog and on my store. You can get it. This is very, very, very hot. So I use a little cake pan to heat it in so that it doesn't melt anything, because it has melted a lot of my mats. So you're going to turn it on and you'll see the magic happen. And there we are. So you're all set. It will be a little bit wet, so you just want to wait a second just to make sure that it's nice and dry. There are framelits in this set to cut out the bee, but I really wanted to hand cut it out just to make sure that it was nice and even. So I'm just going to fussy cut these out. And again, just try not to touch the embossing just to make sure it's okay. And there is our sentiment. And then you just want to hand cut out these bees. And the antennas are a little bit difficult, but it's even harder, I think, just with the embossing. You could have cut it out with the framelits first and then come back and do the embossing on it. It's totally up to you. And I'm sure if you have a magnetic platform, you could easily, you know, do this embossing and then use the framelit. I just don't have that yet. So the magnetic platform for the Big Shot makes it so that your framelits don't move around when you're going through. Without it, you always have that risk of your framelit moving as you're going through the Big Shot. So that's always a problem, and that's why we always recommend the magnetic platform if you want it. And if you host a party, you can almost always, depending on your sales from the party, get something half off, and that's a great time to get that Big Shot. I love my Big Shot. The embossing folder that we used today used the Big Shot. You can get the framelits. There is tons and tons of options, and there's lots of framelits. It seems like Stampin' Up! Is going more towards the framelits than the punches. So if you really love Stamping Up and love crafting, I definitely recommend getting the Big Shot, because that's the way that it's going, it looks like, is framelits and embossing folders and all that goodness. Okay. So we have our bees and our sentiment. So now we just put together our cards. So we want to get out our base that we were working with. And we're going to attach our ribbon. So I'm just going to put a little bit of snail along the ribbon. And that's all you need. And just kind of center it where you want it. And again, you can always snip off the excess if you don't like where it is and all of that. I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals for the bees, just so that they look more three-dimensional. And you could even curve the wings up if you wanted to, just to make him look like he's really flying. There's that. And then I'm going to use snail for the sentiment. There we go. There is our finished card. So I love the bees. I love the hexagons. I really enjoyed this card, and I hope you all did too. If you liked my video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that red subscribe button, and below you will find all of my links to my blog, to my Facebook, to my Pinterest. Make sure that you're connected with me on all of those. Have a great night. Keep stamping, Stampers. Bye.